Sox. Bring on the Bo Sox. Bring on the Brewers, the Rangers, and the Yankees too. We'll beat the Indians. We'll beat the Tigers. We'll beat the A's so bad. Gonna make Billy blue. What do you want? Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. Okay. Blue Jays. Let's play ball.
Welcome, Blue Jay fans! Welcome to another episode of Talking Jays. I'm your host, George Long, and we finally have some action happening on the Blue Jay front. It was a long month of not a lot of reporting, a lot of talking about the previous years. Did podcasts about talking about the playoffs that the Blue Jays had participated in last season. Talked about the international draft, their signings, young Beltre, things like that. But it's nice now to finally talk about some additions that are happening to the squad. So again, congratulating the Blue Jays, picking up a couple of pitchers for the bullpen. Tyler Chatwood from Chicago Cubs over the last number of years signed a free agent deal, 1 year, great, $3 million, superb. Love the signing, love the 1 year. Then Kirby Yates, 1 year, great, 5.5. Great base salary, has some incentives attached, and I'm sure the Blue Jays won't mind paying those incentives if he performs at the top of his game. It's well worth. I heard the number may get as high as $10 million for the year, so with incentives. So, if he's going out there and giving you 30 to 40 plus saves, it's $10 million that's worth spent instead of the 5.5 it was going to be. So. Let's hope Kirby picks up his incentives by the end of the year. And then the big man that we're going to talk about on this podcast is George Springer, signing the big deal that brings him for 6 years at $150 million to man center field, brings all that playoff experience with him. We talked about the Blue Jays last postseason when they got into those playoffs. They didn't they didn't look comfortable playing on that stage. It brand new to them. I know a lot of these players grew up together in the minor leagues and they won a championship. I know that. But winning a championship in the minors, I'm sure, because I've never done that either, is a heck of a lot different than winning a championship or getting to the World Series in the big leagues. So they looked wide-eyed. They were astonished, I thought, by the whole thing of it. Pitching was really well during the postseason, and then batters just weren't up to snuff. What does George Springer bring to this team? He's bring up the snuff type of a play. So this guy has been a playoff performer for the last 5 years, 6 years. Shows up at big moments. Big time, and he's a big time player. Will he last just 6 years playing center field? No, he's not gonna. Won't be out there till the age of 37 manning center field. They'll move him around the field, DH, maybe even get moved. There's no contract that's large enough that you can't move. I remember the Blue Jays moving a Vernon Wells contract when he signed his 7-year, $146 million, or I can't remember what it was. It was a big. It didn't sign it. It was a re-sign. So that's why it's not coming up as one of the biggest signs. So it was a re-sign. So you can get rid of contracts. They got rid of Alex Rios towards the end of his contract with 2 years remaining. So don't be afraid of those last couple of years, Blue Jay fans. I've heard a lot of the Twitter. They overpaid for him. I don't think they overpaid. I'm going to tell you why. At the end of this podcast, and then they might have went a little long with the years, but that's what you have to do to bring big players in and show them that you're willing to do what it takes to win, and bringing in Chatwood and Yates, and then bringing in Springer, great signs. And I'm not going to talk about the Michael Brantley situation. That would have really done something for the lineup. I know the Jays aren't finished yet, so there's still players like they can bring in and do and things like that. They still got to bring pitching in, no question. But Brantley would have just evened out that righty-lefty in the lineup because they are right-handed heavy. To me, their top 6, 5 of them are right-handed batters right now. If you want to slide, I wouldn't mind sliding Rowdy into the top 6, and that'll leave out that righty-lefty. But I don't know how high the Jays are. They just seem to be skittish, I find. He came on towards the end of last season, got that injury late last year, so hopefully he gets a good start to the season, get some playing time early, get himself underway, and I don't think that's a bat that you're going to regret getting into your lineup every single day. And he did well against lefties too. There's times where he had to stick in. The righty starts the game and the lefty comes in. They stuck him and they and he got some hits. So he's not all go up against right-handed batters. He's not going to start probably against lefty starters, but give him the opportunity. I think they'll be surprised. So, but we're going to talk about Springer, not talking about Rowdy. So we're going to talk about Springer and the addition and what does he bring to the Blue Jays? Again, I talked about the playoff experience. When you go into that clubhouse and it's Biggio and Bichette and Vladdy, Grichuk, Gurriel, when they go into the clubhouse, different feeling last year than what this year is going to be. When you walk into the clubhouse and you see George Springer putting his pants on and getting ready to go play a ball game, it brings the whole team up a little bit better. It brings your confidence up that you can play with the big boys when you bring in big boys. And again, the Jays aren't finished, so he's going to be batting at the top of the batting order. I don't know which position, 1, 2, 3. I have no idea. I think he could adjust to anywheres. Put him 3 or 4. I think he'll get those RBIs will be higher. We'll take a look at his RBI totals over the last few years, and I think they could be even higher if he batted in the middle of the order. So, but let's get underway and take a look at some of his numbers and what he's going to bring to the Jays. But first, we'll go to a little history with him. He was drafted by the Twins late in rounds in 2008, so he didn't sign with them. Went back into the draft. Then he was drafted in the first round by Houston in 2011, and then he signed right away. And now from 2011 to 2021, here we are standing there. So a nice little 10-year career with that organization. So if we take a look, just going to focus on the last 4 years, 17 to 20, and see what this guy brings to us. You can see the last 3 of the last 4 years because there was no All-Star game last year. He was at the All-Star game those 3 years. So in 2016, you'll see one bold there, 162 games. He played now 162 games. He's durable. He played 140, and 122, just biting an injury there, but nothing serious. So you can see that's the other thing with players, right? Like players can't help you out in the press box when they're with their injuries. They're going to help you on the field. So if you stay on the field, he's going to be able to help the team. So he can't help sitting up in the press box, so he stays on the field, which is awesome. So we take a look at home runs. Look at those home runs from 17 to 20. 34 dingers in 17 and 22. And then and 19 was a wicked year for him. Superb year. Kind of like what Kirby Yates had. A great 2019. Kind of like what Tyler Chatwood had an okay 2000, like one of his better career numbers in 2019. So I love players and bringing players in of what have you done for me lately. This is what he has done lately. 2019 tallied up 39 home runs and 96 ribbies. Those ribbies, that's from the leadoff position. So if he's batting 3, 4, 5, those RBIs would be around 120 easily. So if you move him to RBI production, I think you will get it. Even in 2017, 85 RBIs at the leadoff spot. So like that's remarkable. In 220 out of the 60 game season, how many games did he play in 220? Let me backtrack there. 60 games, right? In 220 and 20. Played 51 games. Okay, so he missed 9 games. So yeah, so 32 RBIs in those 51 games. That's again great RBI production at that leadoff spot. And I think you'd get more if he moved down in the batting order, especially with guys like Biggio and Bichette on the batting order. I'd be tempted to put him in a 3-hole. Let Biggio and Bichette do their damage of getting on base, and then you have this guy coming in the 3-hole. I get a feeling they're going to bat him 1 or 2. I'm thinking 2, but depends what else they do with the roster. They're going to probably, I think, still bring in another bat They were so close with Brantley. Well, I shouldn't say they were close because we all heard they weren't close in the end. What was close was just the reports. So I shouldn't keep saying using the word they were close because they weren't really close, as some reporters are now reporting. So, yeah. So, but the RBIs, I'd put them. I'm telling you, I'd put them in that 3 hole, and then you could have Gurriel or Gurriel batting behind him, protecting him because Gurriel is no slouch. He's a 300 hitter. Just protecting, Springer because Springer is the guy with the pop in your batting order now. Until somebody else shows me the regular pop. And we're talking 34, 22, 39 dingers the last 3 years. 14 last year out of 51 games. That's on pace. Well, I can't do the math, so times it up. Somebody can do the math. Out of a 60-game season, it's at least 30-some, so if not 40. So those home runs would be nice in that 3 hole for the Blue Jays. And you know what, the Blue Jays, we are lacking the pitching department right now. Their offense was a top 10 offense last year. We did a podcast talking about their season last year, of their offense numbers, and it was like top. There were 7 in a lot of them, 5th in some categories, but basically they are a top 10 offense. And you add in Springer now is going to bolster that up, and then plus hopefully whatever they bring in on top of that. So Springer, walks 64, not getting a shootload of walks. Strikeouts over 100 times a season, which is acceptable for the production that he puts up there. You take a look at the batting average of 17, 283, then go down to 265, and then 2019, which was a great year for him, 292 batting average, a 383 on-base percentage, and a 591 slugging. That is monster numbers. And if you take a look at his career, his on-base percentage in his career is 361. Name of the game is getting on base. He does it well. Nobody does it much better than that over your career of getting on base and scoring runs. And he sometimes hits himself in out of that leadoff spot. So he's a great addition. Take a look. Again, those RBIs, they'd be much higher. He's not much of. He's definitely not a stealer. If you take a look at the stolen bases, the caught stealings, that percentage is not very good. So he doesn't take off a whole lot. It's hard to get that big body getting around those bases. And you see the OPP. I think we just did this. I think we must have this posted twice here. And then if we could take a look at that OPS the last 4 seasons: 889, 780. So your OPS is your on base plus your slugging, and that's what this number gets. So getting on base is the name of the game. Slugging the crap out of that ball is the name of the game. If you put these numbers together at 974 in 2019, you got yourself one heck of a player. And look at that OPS plus at 141 at 2017, 114. It didn't dip below 100. And 100 is an average ball player. So if he 2019, he's 50% better than the rest of the baseball players in MLB. He's 50% better. So that you're talking Mike Trout. Mike Trout. I'd like to see what his OPS plus is, but I think Trout obviously would be higher. Same with Mookie. So, but those 150 in 2019 and then 140, 220. That's some. Again, what have you done for me lately? Take a look at these last 3 years of what have you done for me lately, and it's crazy numbers. Let's take a look at some of his personal stats here. If we take a look, All-Star game, 3-time All-Star, 2017, 18, and 19, and probably would have been in 20 if we had a regular season. He was a 2017 World Series MVP. Now look at his MVP ranks, 3 times. He finished up in the top 15 for MVPs. 13 in 2017. 2019, he had an MVP season. 7th. I think should have been much higher than 7th, but that's the way it goes. And then 2020, 13th. So Silver Sluggers. He's a winner of 2 Silver Sluggers. Like I said, guys, he's not much to sneeze at. We'll take a look at his wins above replacement. We'll slide over to WAR right beside that because this is positional players. 6th in WAR in 2019, 7th last year. So top 10 finisher in WAR players. Offensive WAR, 2017, he was 9th. So he can he's mostly known for his offense, then his defense, His defense is not going to hurt you. It's going to be much improved defense now that he's there. You get Grichuk out of center, move Grichuk to the corners. Where Grichuk was no slouch at center. He just there were some plays that were questionable. I marked one in the postseason, a ball that blooped in front of him, dropped in front of him, got a horrible read. George Springer doesn't get bad reads, so that was a horrible read that should have been caught in the postseason. So there was a number of them in the outfield, even with Teoscar. I think he had 2, if not 3, bad outfield plays of not cutting balls off, to taking bad routes to them, giving up extra bases, turning that. The one I remember is right off the top of my head is the first game, the Randy triple. It should have been a double. He played that into a triple. Like the whole rest of the inning could have changed because Randy scored on a pass ball from third base. So that whole inning could have been different. Who knows what would have happened? But again, I think the Blue Jays were still in over their head anyways. So Springer is not going to be ever in over his head. And you can see games played 2016. He played in all games. Again, he's playing in 140 games a season. That's where you want your positional players, your stars are got to be on the field. That's why with the Yankees, you don't know, it's up in the air. Judge always hurt, Stanton always hurt. So these guys, great ball players, they're not great if they're up in the press box and they can't help you. Look at those runs scored for Springer: 16, 17, 18, and 20. Top 10 in every one of those. So he gets on base, gets OBP, folks. OBP, it's the name of the game, getting on base. And he's one of the best ones at getting at it. So triples last year, he got 2 triples last year. So the old, the thick body is still getting around a bit. And then the home runs, 2017 with 34, and then 2019 he had a monster year in 2019. I thought 5th in home runs. So he's not going to hurt you. Now everybody talks about that the Blue Jays overpaid for Springer, and I don't think they do. I'm going to compare him to this player here who signed a 7-year contract last year, and they pretty much have comparable numbers when you take a look at them. So if you take a look at top there, George Springer, and then the guy below, I just scratched out his team because I didn't want to give it away too early. Maybe someone will know when I say he signed 7 years last year. But if you take a look, we'll slide down to the power numbers. The home run. Springer with 174 in those 7 years. This is, I think it's 7 years combined. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, 7-year combined I put together the last 7 years. And you can see Springer with 174 homers. The player below him, 138. So he's outslugging him. Springer in those last 7 years averaging 25 homers. This player here averaging 20. We'll do the averages. Springer's averaging 119 hits. This player here is averaging 136 hits a season. In those 7 years. So, this player below has him probably out-hit a bit. You can see the plate appearances, 510 for Springer, 538 for this player here. So this player is probably staying a little more healthier, staying on the field a little more often. But again, very, very comparable numbers. You can see the power numbers. I think Springer has this over this player here. RBIs, Springer's averaging 94. This other player, 101 in the last 7 years. Great number. 101 average the last 7 years. Springer, 94. Again, that average, I'm telling you, would top 100 if you bat in the middle of the order. So, stolen bases, all that stuff, not important between these two players because they're not base stealers. Take a look a little more here. Strikeouts. Springer averages 112 strikeouts a season. This player here only 82. So this player's a tad, puts the ball in play a little more Springer. So you can pretty much see the difference between these players. Springer, more pop in the bat. The player down below, a little more put ball in play, hit more doubles, kind of that player. But take a look at some of these numbers here, the on base and stuff like that. So Springer's on base percentage, 361. The player below, 376. Very even, very comparable. Slugging, 491. The 500, very even. OPS, 852 to 877, very even. And it gets no more even than the OPS plus at 131 and 130, even. So, getting on base, slugging is obviously the name of the game. So you're adding these numbers together and you're getting 852 and 877. Very, very comparable players, very almost even type players. So everybody's trying to wonder, okay, who's player B? Who's the player that I'm comparing him to? Well, this player, like I said, last year signed for 7 years. So he played for 1 year already, obviously, right? So he now has 6 years to Springer's 6 years. Now, this player here below is only 9 months younger, so he's not a full year younger. So he's only 9 months younger. So they're pretty much the same age. Again, both players right now have 6 years left. So Springer, let's go back to Springer, signed for 6 years, $150 million. This player here has 6 years left and has $219 million on his salary. So a huge difference of $70 million. And both these players put up comparable numbers each other. Almost the same age. Player B is like 9 months younger, so almost a year younger. Same, numbers. A little different type of ball player. Like I said, Springer more pop. The other player is more puts the ball in play, gets his gap or double, stuff like that. But for $70 million, there's a big comparison. So player B, the player that signed this 7-year deal last year for a whopping 200 and some million and still has 219 left on it, is this man right here, Anthony Rendon. So Springer and Rendon, very comparable numbers. Not much huge difference in on-base percentage and slugging. They're very right there. Little different type of ball player. Both don't steal bases. Both different positions. Maybe Rendon will age a little better. Playing, third base, can move to first. He's not a strong power hitter, so power hitters usually age a little quicker. But again, very comparable. But I still don't think the Blue Jays overpaid for Springer. He's right there. He's under Anthony Rendon's numbers. Rendon signed a wicked contract. Well worth it. You'll see a huge difference, I think, from the Angels this year. But again, I don't think they overpaid for Springer. I think Springer is well worth the money. Let's go 4 years, and we'll see what happens after that. It's going to bolster this team. This team, I said, was making the strong goes in next season, in 22 and 23. That's their years of getting to the World Series. So this season 21, let's put a good show on in the postseason. Let's get to the postseason first and do some damage. It's not unperceivable that they can't do more damage this year than next. But I've been saying for 3 years at 22, 23, when I looked at forecasts of players, what their ages are going to be, 22 and 23, and possibly 24 is going to be their years. Because 25, a lot of these guys are free agents, these young kids. So 22, 23, that's their years to make the drives. And bringing in guys like George Springer, World Series winner, so much experience. And that's why I was hoping for Brantley to come in. You bring a Brantley into this lineup, and players watch him perform day in and day out. That stuff means a lot. And I'll go back to 3 years ago when San Diego signed first baseman from Kansas City. I'm drawing a blank. Cosmier. Am I saying Cosmier, Royce? Eric Hosmer. When they signed him 3 years ago, I made a statement on my Facebook. I said, this is a big-time move. A lot of people were criticizing the move because of the length of the contract, 8 years, and wicked money. And I said, you know what? San Diego right now, which was 3 years ago, has the best farm team. You got to bring in players who can show youngsters how to play the game of baseball. And there was no better than Eric Hosmer in my eyes. The guy's a World Series champion. I love how he carries himself on the ball field. You got to bring a player like that in and just show these players on what it takes to be an everyday Major League Baseball player. And weed out the bad ones and the good ones and correct the bad ones to being good. Just everything, even off the field. And I said, in 3 years' time, San Diego are going to be in the postseason. They ended up getting postseason last year, but this is the year that I thought were going to be big. Now, does it help that they signed Manny Machado after that? Yeah, it certainly helps. I never saw that coming. Tatis has blossomed into a star. Does it say that he would have without Hosmer? Probably, maybe. But Hosmer helped the situation, that pitching staff being built, what they have now, moving those draft picks that developed by just watching Hosmer come to spring training and work, and moving some of those guys for like top end starters now. They still got pitchers in the bullpen that are right from their farm, right from day one. I know they brought in 3 arms and Clevenger last year, but they got pieces. And then you bring in a guy like Hosmer and showing these kids on how to win is a big step, and that's what I think Springer does for these Blue Jays. I really do. The Blue Jays are going to be watching him perform day in and day out, put his routine in and put his work in, and kids are going to want to step up their game and not disappoint Mr. Springer. And that is a true fact. It's an intangible that we don't think about when we sign ball players to teams. That's why I was kind of hoping Brantley would have been a perfect guy. Don't kid yourself on what Marcell Ozuna brought to the Braves last season. He was a glue in that clubhouse, and they're truly going to miss him if they don't re-sign him. And I don't think they're going to be as better. Depends who they get in to fill it. I can't see them. I think it's going to hurt. And great team, ball team, that's Freddie Freeman's team. I get all that. But to bring in a guy of Ozuna and what he did was remarkable. And, Springer doesn't have that same personality as Ozuna, but he's the same type of player. I watch him in interviews and stuff like that, always smiling, having a good time, keeping things light when it has to be light, but going hard when it has to go hard. And that's what this player brings to the Blue Jays. So I think we're going to enjoy watching him over the next 4 years and go from there. Like I said, if your 5 and 6 is kind of creepily well, sometimes you can get rid of that or just eat the contract. They got rid of Vernon Wells the last 3 years of his contract, and same with guys like Rios, and then even further back, Sean Green to L.A. You get guys to take that salary at the end when you give them something with it too, like a nice prospect, and their guys are going to eat the salary. But don't worry about that right now, Blue Jay fans. You got a good one for the next 4 years, so we're going to enjoy watching them play. So that's it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Give me some comments. Give me some feedback. Just things like that. I like to hear some feedback. It's fun to interact with everybody who's watching these podcasts. So thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you next time.